Alright, it's bug time. Time to paint a bug. It's painting day. Yet again, back again. This is my day off. This is when I get to hang out and just talk about Dungeons and Dragons and paint bugs, which is what we're doing today. And I've selected the Umber Hulk. Sound is good, so we'll pull out the earplugs. I do apologise if I was just a little bit late. I was just trying to tidy up the miniature before I started painting. And what I noticed is that filing off or removing it by scraping takes off the primer that's been applied. So it's a little bit troublesome. You kind of find yourself in a situation where you need to actually go and be really careful about what you take off, because you can take off some of the detail. But not only that, you can wind up having to reprime the miniature, which is kind of like a big drag if you ask me. So let's get started with my normal sort of lead into everything. Look, if you haven't, if you're rewatching the video, this is a live stream, so if you're rewatching it, you will find the start time down in the description. I do not edit down my live streams when I'm painting because they're simply far too long and it would just take too long to process. But normally I would do my presentation and then I would allow people to talk, but that's not the format for today. This is my day off, so essentially I'm going to paint a miniature and you can talk with me about Dungeons and Dragons or whatever you like. It doesn't matter, or just say hi, that's all fine. So I'll do my lead in and then we'll get started. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, absolutely, but primarily this is my day off. So I'm going to be painting an Umber Hulk. And I have selected Nolzur's Umber Hulk. I purchased this a little while back. I've been eager to paint it, or at least get the process started. So I thought that's what I would do for today. And hence that's why we're getting this particular video rather than the purple worm. For those of you who know, I'm working on a purple worm and a couple of other projects. And of course, it's not a hugely difficult miniature to paint because the color palette is fairly, it's pretty much the same color, just different shades of color. So I have selected a few colors to help it stand out, and I will go through that very, very shortly. But anyway, I just thought that people would be interested. I don't expect my miniature to look anything like the picture I'm showing you right now. For those of you who are wondering, it's probably not going to happen. Okay, all right, there we go. The screen is up. How's it going, Overlord? Let's paint some bugs, absolutely. So this is what I've got. I don't know if you can necessarily tell, but I did notice, as I said, when I was filing and trying to remove some of the lines, that it was taking off the primer. These are already pre-primed. And so I've decided that for the sake of my just hassle, and I don't want hassle, I'm not going to do that. And then I'm going to go back over it if I feel I really have to in the worst locations. Just because there's a lot of extra work. Hi Darren, how's it going? So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take a couple different colors. I'm going to use the tan earth for the flesh areas. Darren, I was going to pick up this mini last week. I am eager to see how it turns out. Me too. So I'm going to use tan earth in the fleshy areas between the plates, and I'm also going to use, I'm going to probably water this down, but I'm also going to probably drop its color tone a little bit when I do some shading with it, and I might use some of my flat flesh as well as part of sort of the painting process, but we'll see how we go. That'll be the first color I apply, and I've got myself some of this Averland Sunset, and that is going to be for the plates, the various plates on the miniature. So that is definitely the key colors I'll be using for today. And this is a Citadel paint, and this is a Vallejo paint for those of you who want to know. Okay, so first off, I'll just grab my standard brush, or I could get a, no, I'll get a softer brush today. Hi Ethan, how's it going? Let's get the painting party started. Time to break out the hats. Well, the problem is you wouldn't be able to see the hats anyway because I'm pointing down at the table, aren't I? So not likely to happen. Maybe some other time. I don't have two cameras. Gabba Gorilla, how's it going? Okay, so paint some figures. Yes, we're getting there. I do apologise if I seem to be mouthing off too much. Alright, so we're going to go with a tan earth. I'm going to do, normally I often sort of coat things with a black paint and then go from there, but I am going to use a wash instead for this one. Probably not today because it's not going to work out. So in between the plates here, I'm going to paint on. That's way too thick. I'm going to have to water that down. Thought it would be right, but it's not. Yeah, okay, so that's watered down a little bit more. And we're just going to apply fairly quickly and roughly to that location, because I know I'm going to have to go over and do the shells anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much as long as it's not too watery. There's little bubbles forming, that's not good. What's that? Erapedes Ghost. Hi, thanks for the channel. You are most welcome. I want to talk just briefly for those of you who are familiar with how I do my videos, and for those of you who aren't familiar, I know there's been a lot of sort of confusion about what's going on, because I do a live stream and then later on I release an edited version, and I'm assuming that a lot of people don't understand why I don't just release the edited version once the live stream's done. Now the reason for that, for those of you who want to know, is that yes, it is really nice miniature as it happens, Gabby. I really enjoy. I think it's going to be just fantastic. I have quite a few Umber Hulk miniatures, but the reason I do it is because I've found in the past that YouTube can sometimes mess up the original live stream, and I don't want to try to tax my computer by trying to record it on my machine at the same time as streaming. So that's why I do that the way I do it. The other aspect to it is that just between here, where's that plate? That's that right there, that's it. So the reason I'm doing it is some people like the full live stream. Other people don't like the full live stream, and hence I try to do an edited version, but it takes me a lot longer. So you'll notice that a lot of those videos take ages to be released, and that's simply because of time. You know, it takes anywhere, if I were to do a pre-recorded video, it takes anywhere from 10 to 20 hours of work. That's filming and editing and putting it all together to actually release a pre-recorded video. That's how long it takes. And it would take, and that's one person doing his channel. Now, if you have an army of people, it's a bit different. So what I'm doing is I'm going to, I have always been labeling a video that's live, and the description is live, but I'll also put that into the title so you can see. And if you really like the topic, then you just need to let me know, and I will bump it in the order for editing. Now, if everybody does that every single time, you'll find that it won't help in the slightest, but if there's something that sort of stands out for you and you really would like to see the edited version, it takes me from YouTube anywhere from about a day or two to make that happen, because I work, and I don't work on just my channel, I work somewhere else. Okay, this is not my day job. So I do understand that. So that means that videos that don't have the words edited at the end of the title, or in the description, or the words live, okay, those are going to be recorded on my Canon camera. I'm going to try to work my way through all of the old live streams so you can see those in edited versions if that's what you would prefer to see. And then we'll get back to what I was doing before, which is just I've got a bit more of a handle on it than I did before, but it's taking me a little bit of time to make that work. Okay, so underneath, I feel like in the neck here, we can paint in there as well. I don't know if you can necessarily see because the base is getting in the way. And I'll just get in there. So yeah, you guys will let me know, I'm sure, if you like the way that things are working out or not. But yeah, I can't really do more than one release at a time. It takes time for YouTube to process a live stream, and of course I can't be sitting up all night waiting for that to happen. So yes, bear with me, that's what I'm going to try to do for the future. Alright, so I'm going to just use a bit of water. SHM Hooligans, how's it going? Can I ask a question? You absolutely can. Always, you are welcome to ask a question. If I can answer it, I will. I don't just sit here and paint. These days, this is a day where essentially you can ask any question, whether you're a dungeon master or not, doesn't matter. And for those people who just like to hang out and paint, that's what we're doing. Okay, so this brush is just too floppy for what I'm wanting to do right now. So how I'm going to make this work. Now I just need to find, where's that book? I feel like that's right. From about the knee onward, it's all fleshy. So yes, Hooligan, by all means, you ask your question and I will answer as best I can. I was watching a video from one of the other channels, How to Be a Great DM, I believe that's the channel name, and it was talking about playing more than one character as the Dungeon Master. Not so much as a player, but as a Dungeon Master. And it's one of the things I've always disliked. I always find myself talking to myself. And I also find I wind up taking up more airspace in the game compared to the players, which I don't like either. And there's a couple of adventures, pre-made adventures, that tend to sort of do that, and it's quite annoying. So yes, anything you can do to bring, if there's a collection of NPCs in the room, always try to bring one of them forward to be the main speaker while the others are sort of in the background. That is my advice to you when it comes to multiple characters. Okay, so we need a little bit more of the tan to keep the flesh going. And okay, it's that. So ball bearings in those Vallejo paints as before, really, really good. I found that really helpful. Just a little update for those of you who are wondering, because this is now my day off. Yesterday was my day off, today is my day off, this is my painting day now. From now on, this will be the day, rather than what it used to be. So as a result of that, that means the schedule has been shifted around a little bit. I will still be doing the combat tutorials for those of you who are wondering what happened to them. They haven't gone, they've just been shifted in the timeline and they will come up. So don't worry about it, don't freak out. They will still be around. I'm also, for those of you who are wondering what was happening with the monster tactic videos. I was doing monster tactic videos, whether they be live stream or pre-recorded. You'll see a little bit of a different format. I had been for ages wanting to do a series on the monster manual. I'm going to sprinkle the monster tactics into the monster manual videos, and I'm also going to, and this is going to be primarily around how to run your monster, how the stat block works and how they sort of function. There will be a little bit of tactical stuff, but not a huge amount. I'm just going to include a little bit of information on that. It's mostly going to be there as a sort of a way for people to see how it would work in their game, particularly for new Dungeon Masters, but maybe for experienced Dungeon Masters who might have something else to say, or have a different way of running things, or be a bit unsure about what to do with a monster. You know, the monster manual is full of monsters that aren't necessarily combat monsters. I think a few people forget that sometimes. I know I have. It's very easy to do because it does seem like, well, it doesn't make sense. It's a monster. We're going to have a fight now, but they're not all there to just fight. What's that? How do you deal with a DM that had the par? Had the par. How do you deal with a DM that had the par? You're going to have to give me a lot more information, Hooligan, for me to be able to figure out that question, because I have no idea what that means. I'm happy to answer the question, I just don't understand it. Does that make sense? If you're still in the room and you haven't disappeared, I know it took me a little while to get around to looking at the question. Do apologise. So you can see I am literally just getting the paint on as quickly as I can into the areas where I think there's going to be flesh. And not so easy to do actually, as I've discovered. And also too, I'm going to have to do this more than once because I've watered it down. Okay, there we go. It's a bit thin. I did need to water it down, but yeah, it's a bit thin. So more than once to get that to work, I guess. So I'm painting there. I think I maybe have just painted down just a fraction too much. Just check. No, it's all right. Good. Oh, that is a warm day. One of those times. The fine weather is on its way. I won't be having to deal with changing weather or windy weather, and then sunshine and rain. Spring will eventually disappear and it will be full-blown summer. Unfortunately, at that point, my ability to paint and do painting videos is going to be gone. We'll have to shift over to doing the crafting stuff instead. Okay, so I got in there. Just paint a little bit more in there to make sure I get the brown where I need it to be. I feel like that's covered most of that. Now, where is that picture? I feel like the shell itself is forming around the fingers, but is it completely the case? Might not be, actually. Let's have a look. So around the neck, between the arms and the shoulder, down between the thigh and the foreleg, and yeah, okay, all right. And then where's that other screen that I had available for me to check things out? It doesn't really show me any difference. No, that's pretty much the same sort of thing, slightly different color. Okay, all right, cool. Got that. It's back to here. Cool, done. What's this? What's that, ghost? That's one brawny, gigantic insect. Yes, it is. I've only used these a couple of times, and I've never been able to get their gaze effect to come off very well, which is really annoying for those of you who know anything about the Umber Hulk. It has a gaze effect, and I just can't get it to work. Every single time, my players seem to manage to do something that results in its extermination really, really quickly. But then again, I've got players who tend to be better at playing the game than I am, so hence they have already synergized all of their abilities. That's what happens when you play with a whole lot of power gamers, particularly in Adventurers League. Dear. All right, so I'm doing the toes because I feel like that's more fleshy in nature. So I'm just going to paint them on real quick. And what's that, Overlord? I think it's funny that Umber Hulk basically means big brown. Really? Does it? Umber Hulk means big brown? Well, maybe just because I'm painting it kind of brown. I don't know if it's necessarily. I suppose it is brown, isn't it? Let's say it is brown, just for the sake of it. It's brown. Okay, now it's hard to see how far that comes up, so I'm just going to paint that in there brown. I can go over it if I need to anyway. And then fingers. I don't feel like the fingers are necessarily flesh. They feel like they're more sort of shell. Leroy Brown. Yes, why not? Okay, so I'm going to go with, it's hard to tell from the picture and its structure. Okay, all right, so what I'll do is I will paint kind of between and underneath the fingers, and then I can go over with a different colour if I need to. So there, underneath. It's got some claws. Paint that on. Good. So that won't take too long. Good. Fantastic. How is everybody's week going? For those of you who are sort of, been working, is it the end of the week for you, or your weekend's just about finished? I know my weekend is about to finish up. It is Monday for me, and I work on from Tuesday to Tuesday through to Saturday now in New Zealand. So hence the change in the time frames. And I'm really hoping that Dungeon Masters will find the Monster Manual series useful. I noticed that a lot of people were finding the player... Oops, that's way too thin. That's so thin it's just going to go everywhere. Hang on, give me a second. I'm just going to dab it off. Way too thin. Okay, it's so thin it's just coming off now. That's no good. I know a lot of people were really enjoying the tactical videos, and the monster tactics and the videos on sort of combat tutorials. So I thought what I would do is I'd make sure there's one for the dungeon master as well. I've been planning to do monsters and stuff out of the Monster Manual for so long. I just hadn't got round to doing it. And yes, a lot less prep time for those than compared to something like the monster tactics, which are vastly more complicated. Okay, that's way too thin, and I'm going to have to wait till that paint dries a little bit. Okay, so I'll come back to that in a second. And I'll put that sort of over here. And I'm going to just wait for that to sort of dry a little bit. Oh, do I want to paint the antennae? I feel like I should paint the antennae a different colour. But I'll have to count. Yep, we'll just wait until it gets harder, that paint, and I'll go and do that again. Piggy paints. Great. I'm not sure what that means, but hey, welcome Piggy Paints. Ghost weekend here, doing laundry, eating ragatori, and watching live mini painting. Why not? Okay, so while I'm waiting for my paint to dry on the Umber Hulk, it shouldn't take too long because it's really warm in here. I'm going to chuck some more white on the barmaid, and that'll give me just enough time for hopefully to dry out, and then we'll start doing the shell colour, which will be the Averland Sunset. Piggy Paints is doing the same. Alright, housework, I totally get that. I was doing that a couple of days ago and yesterday, and I'll probably have to do some more later on. What's that, Overlord? First snowfall of winter last week. Oh my gosh, so all my employees called out because they got stuck in the ditches. You know, I've never had to contend with snow on any sort of massive scale because it just doesn't get cold enough here in New Zealand, which is kind of weird because we're quite close to the South Pole, but we're just not close enough. Okay, so now I'm going to use, I'm going to ditch the, I was using the standard brush. I'm going to go to the layered brush to deal with this barmaid's apron, which is consistently giving me trouble. So that's that brush there. Make sure I wet it and get some paint on there, and then start covering things while I'm checking through the chat. Okay, what do you got here? Sunday ditches, Sunday afternoon heading into evening. I'm hoping that the time frame for these videos, these live streams on my days off, is working for people. I know it's not going to work for everybody, but I'm trying to capture as many people as I possibly can. It's taken a long time for me to have my shift changed. What's that, Ethan? Sunday here, just watching some painting at midnight in England. Oh my God, you're in England. You know, I feel really bad for those of you who are in the UK or England because, you know, the time frames are never right. You know, whether it's night for me or it's morning for me, it's never going to really work that well for anybody in that part of the world. So it's really hard to capture me and have a chat with me while I'm live, just because of that. Because I'm always going to be sleeping or working when you guys are around. Normally, that would be my assessment. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how it generally works. What's that? Ghost. How about crimson antennae? I suppose you could. It would certainly stand out. I'll think about it. Just making sure. I'm going to just push them into the sun a little bit more. What sun is left, that is, that's falling on my desk. And painting in the white. What's that, Darren? Works good for me, Fred. Okay, works good for you, Darren. Okay, excellent. So, yes, as I said, live streams will be marked in the title as live streams. Those live streams that I edit will be marked as edited in the title as well, not just the description. And if it's not live and it's not edited down from a live stream, it will just have nothing. It'll just have the title and no words that say edited or a live stream. Okay, and hopefully that'll. I know a lot of people watch my channel for different reasons, and not all the same reasons. So that's totally understandable. I think somebody got a little bit upset, and I was trying to explain it, and they were quite understanding about the process once I'd explained what was going on. This is the paint. This is the white that I've been trying to get onto the barmaid for so long. Now, for those of you who have come in and think, oh, you're supposed to be painting a bug, and now he's painting a barmaid. What the heck's going on? I'm not hanging around for this. This is just because I've got to wait for the paint to dry. If I don't wait for the paint to dry, it's just going to make a mess. That's the downside of painting a miniature live, is you don't really want to see somebody paint for a couple of minutes, then talk and wait while it's dry. That would be kind of sucky, wouldn't it? What's that, Overlord? I've been painting with glaze, medium, and an ink over a white base coat. Works great for skin. Okay, alright, good to know. Thank you. Ghost, where do you get your Nolzur's miniatures? The miniature market? No, I get them from Vagabonds, Livewire in Auckland City. I picked this one up from them. This is it's not really a local game store because I live too far away. I have to drive for about an hour or so to get there, and I don't do that very often. So I go and get them from there. I don't generally worry about ordering things online because it doesn't work out cheaper for me anymore. It used to be, but not anymore. Yeah, so hence that's why that's the case. Dual class barmaid sorcerer, or dual class barmaid who transforms into Umber Hulk. Ha ha ha! Sounds very evil. What's that? Hooligans? SHM, what do you got here? DM totally nerfed my barbarian after I rolled extremely high but put restrictions on me in name of keeping it fair to everyone else. No unarmed defense till level 5s. Starting weapons was that okay, gotta quit. You know, when you're rolling your stats, I want to just say I don't allow my players to roll their statistics, whether they be hit points, because one, they could roll a 1 or they could roll really high, and it's very hard for me to check a character sheet if I ever have to, which I very rarely do. It's almost non-existent. But I don't really allow them to do that because it's always going to be in the favour of the characters, which means essentially you've got an overpowered character already, which means I now have to do more work to adjust the difficulty of monsters based on that. Otherwise your character is just going to crush everything. So the fact that they've allowed you to roll any kind of dice for your ability scores and your hit points is it's brave on their part, because you wouldn't really get that from me. I think you need to be fair about the whole process, that sometimes you're going to roll hugely high and you will outclass everybody. If your numbers is as good as you're saying, you're probably not going to be able to be anything but sort of, you will hog the limelight when it comes to making skill checks and doing a lot of other things. So I'd just be understanding about the whole process if I was you. It's not going to last forever. Things will change. But yeah, the fact that they've allowed you to do that in the first place, I think is brave on their part. Okay, the barmaid. We're moving off the barmaid and I'm moving back onto our bug, because that's why people are here. Let's get some bugginess going. Alright, so we're going to shift to a slightly stiffer and larger brush. I'm not going to be using my standard brush. I'm going to be using a really cheap, nasty brush. I hate to say it, but it is. This thing here. I don't even know what I could call it. It is just what it is. Okay, so this is the Averland Sunset. I'll pop that open. Oh, geez, I hate these things. Citadel paints are they suck to get open without spilling everything everywhere. That's why I really like those dropper bottles. They're awesome in comparison. Okay, let's get some paint into the little palette. Quite a bit of it, because there's quite a bit to cover. And it looks really, really thick. Alright, let's push that down. I need a different brush to make that work, so let's grab that brush there. And add a little bit of water. Chum, 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 chum. No, it's not enough. Man, it's really, really thick. Okay, so that seems to be flowing now. Only time will tell whether I have watered it down way too much. Let's get the paint going on though. So I'm going to coat pretty much all of the shell. I'm not being fussy about it. I'm just getting it on as quickly as I can for those of you who are wondering what's going on. And looks good. I think the distinction between the brown and the fleshy colour will work. Pardon me, burping. I was watching somebody else painting these types of miniatures, and I thought, well, actually it makes a good point that differentiating those different parts of the body is a good idea. I decided to go a little bit more extreme in terms of my colour selection, but that's fine. Each to their own, correct? Right, so I'll just get that paint on. The thinner stuff is going on better, which is good news, but is it going to be too thin? That's the question. Thank you, Ghost. What's that, Overlord? I agree on the painting and the paint bottles. I'm moving away from the Citadel in general towards the golden acrylic and Laquetex. Okay. I don't know too much about them, but I know that the Vallejo squeezy bottles with the little ball bearing that I put inside, it's made a huge difference just to be able to manage the paint. So you might have noticed that I haven't painted right to the edge because this brush is just too big to be able to control the paint like that. So I'm just sort of covering the big areas, and then I'll grab a different brush and I'll go over those. So don't think that I have missed these deliberately. No, accidentally. No, it's deliberate. I'm leaving those parts deliberately because I will go over them. La-da-da-dee. And what else we got here? Ghost. He should have a set of 1970s furniture back at his Umber Hulk pad. Why not? Yes, absolutely. Do you think that he would actually need furniture? I thought that Umber Hulk sort of travel around quite a bit. That was my sort of impression. Could be wrong. Yeah, I'm glad I left the antennae alone because that's going to take, it'll be too hard to get at them to start with, so we'll deal with them much later on. And now the head and here. Just going to go over the eyes now. We'll deal with a different colour later. And how do I get underneath there? And there's legs. I suppose I can get at the legs, not too bad. We'll do that. It's getting a bit thinner now. Either my brush is sort of hitting all the watery paint that I've mixed up, or it's, yeah, or I'm running out. I'm going to have to mix up some more. Now I would normally stick these to something so I can hold them, but I haven't done that today. What's that? Migwara Luffy. Migwara Luffy. Yes, what's that? Please visit the channel for a few moments to support child charity. They are live right now. I am nobody. The name is 1.5 reviews, and yeah, please like and subscribe. Thanks and love. Okay, all right. I'm sure it is a good you know, I have an issue with somebody who jumps into somebody else's live stream to promote something else that they're doing. Clearly it is an important issue, but it's yes, I kind of find it rude that somebody would not ask before doing that. It's just my view that promotions on somebody else's live stream for something else on a different channel is kind of stink. Anyway, Ghost, I'm sure he gets tired of terrorizing the villagers after a while. A sofa would come in handy. Just, he doesn't look like he could just curl up in a ball anywhere and nap. No, I suppose not. No, you can't just curl up in a ball and nap. Not really going to work, is it? Okay, so getting at all the little bits and pieces on this thing is actually pretty hard. I'm going to have to probably stick it to something. It's not going to work if I just have to hold it like this. This is going to be just problematic. Anyway, we're getting there. And I believe that's shell there as well, which is going to be very difficult for me to get at. So keep going. I'm going to have to grab some more paint. It is running out. Overlord, what's that? Underdark is always a fun to play in. I remember the DM kept making up pools of chemicals that did random magical stuff. I think that's a fabulous idea. Why not? Surprise is part of the fun of Dungeons and Dragons, right? Okay, so I'm going to have to clean out that brush, and I have to get some more paint because I'm running out. Hooligans. As a human variant Outlander barbarian, I ended up with a 19 strength, an 18 dexterity, an 18 constitution, 12 intelligence, 15 wisdom, and 11 charisma, and an AC of 18. And a starting feat with Great Weapon Master, all rolled in front of the party and DM. Look, I'm not saying that you cheated, Hooligan. I'm just saying that your character is so powerful it will outclass everybody else, and it's probably going to make it really difficult for anybody to sort of have their time in the limelight, which is probably why your Dungeon Master has implemented what you were talking about. So I wouldn't let that change your mind about playing in their game. But yeah, thanks for the tip. Yeah, I think it's just, it's always problematic when you roll stats. You can get one person who can wind up rolling just terrible. I mean, the method for rolling up stats is such that it's supposed to be designed that you don't get bad rolls, because you're rolling 4 dice, taking the best result, which honestly, mathematically, is fantastic. Who would want to even bother taking the average if you can do it that way? The chance, and if you can place it wherever you like, you're going to always go with that option. What's that, Ghost? Definitely like the colour scheme so far. Okay, well that's good. I just need to get a smaller brush because it's not going to work if I keep trying to apply the paint where I need it to be with that big brush. So I'm going to do the big shake. It's not really shakeable. These Citadel paints just don't shake. Okay, let's grab this. Woo! And there we go. For those of you who were wondering what was the deal with the character building video, the character building videos I've been wanting to do for ages. I just haven't been able to figure out how to do it in a seamless manner, which is why I released the video for the edited version of that so quickly. Although it might not seem quick to you guys, it was quick for me. But yeah, there's a reason behind that, and that is just because people keep asking me, and I just haven't been able to do it. So I thought, well, I just got to bite the bullet and just wear the fact that some of the video content is going to look even more rough than before. Because if I'd had a choice, I would have just selected the source and gone with that. I feel when you're using the Umber Hulk that more than one Umber Hulk is better than having just the one. I feel like 2 at a minimum. Otherwise you just don't have a... Solo monsters just don't work. You know, they always... If they don't have somebody else to help back them up, unless you give them a reaction every time somebody else has a turn, it just doesn't work. They just get crushed. It's one of the things I do with my my bigger monsters, is I'll tend to give them a reaction every time one of the other players has a turn. So if I've got a big party, instead of them having 3 legendary actions, they will probably have, you know, if I've got a party of 6, there's 6 legendary actions. Plus they get their turn. Now that sounds like a lot, but you got to remember that you're dealing often with characters who get more than one turn because they're 2-weapon fighting, or they have taken features that give them extra benefits, like extra attack gives you another attack. So it all sort of works out in the end. Plus you've got wizards throwing spells and have more than one ray firing away at you, trying to destroy the monsters, which I'm not married to the monsters. I'm quite happy to see them die. That's not an issue, but I would like them to be considered scary rather than easy cannon fodder. Alright, so I'm going to have to shift over to the, where is it? Find it. There, my standard brush. And a drink of water is necessary because I'm getting dry. What's that? Hooligans. High stats are moving to get excited about. That being said, I'm fairly new to the hobby. High stats is it's a numbers game, all about averages. So for anybody who's ever played Dungeons and Dragons, it's not a game of true skill. It's a game of averages where you figure out probabilities. And obviously there's role playing involved, but for those people who are more prefer more of the crunch and are dealing with combat, because when you're dealing with combat, that tends to be a big factor, is the numbers side of it. It's just, the better your numbers, the better chance you are at being successful at not just combat, but everything else. I'm just going to wet my brush because it's just not working, and let's dry it off again. Just give me a second while I just... Trying to get it just the right dampness, otherwise it's either too dry, too wet, and the paint sort of bleeds everywhere. And is the paint too thick now? Maybe it is. Alright, add some more water and just work my way around all the finer detail areas. I don't need to be too perfect about it because I can go back over it and clean it up later, but try to be as close to where I want it to be as possible. There. So I have prepped all the information for the character building videos. I've almost prepped all the information necessary for the combat tutorial videos, so they should happen in a timely manner. You shouldn't need to worry about them not happening, short of me getting sick. And I have a bunch of Monster Manual videos prepped and ready to go for live streaming as well. So all of the hard work has been done over yesterday actually. I spent a good portion of yesterday just doing that. Okay, I'll just show you that while I'm painting in here, so you can see where I'm putting the paint. And we'll just paint there as well. Down along the edge. So you'll probably be able to see some of the seam lines as I'm painting. So for those of you who are wondering why I hadn't taken them all out, it's just that I was losing some of the detail and I was also losing the primer off it. And if it really looks offensive, then I'll take it away and clean it off later, and then just touch up paint. There we go. Oh, I feel like maybe that's actually probably right down to about there. Kind of hard to tell the difference between what is the shell and what is going to be the flesh area. Okay, that's that one. Let's clean out my brush. What's that, Ethan? For a while I've been wanting to play a barbarian druid multi-class, so I was wondering if you had any advice on what spells I should choose, subclasses, feats, races, and weapons. So are you going to start with barbarian and then go into druid, or are you going to start with druid and then go into barbarian? I'm assuming you're going to go with your barbarian first and then go into druid. But you let me know and we'll go with that. We'll work our way from there, okay? I like starting off with the fighting classes and then going into a spellcaster. So for example, right now I started off with a paladin, took a couple of levels in paladin, then moved into sorcerer and made sure that my charisma was really high and I could eventually wear heavy armor. The problem is I'm a glass cannon. I get barbarian first. Okay, that makes sense. So What sort of numbers are you, how are you going to arrange your ability scores? I would probably go with, since you're a barbarian and you're going to want to rage, and yet you've also got spellcasting features, you're going to have to be careful when you decide. It's not a great combination to be casting spells as a druid and be a barbarian, because of the rage feature, and that's one of the big draws, right, for getting the barbarian, is because you get your rage and then you get your damage resistance, which magic weapons can't get through. You know, just because somebody's got a magic weapon doesn't mean your resistance to slashing, piercing and bludgeoning is reduced in any way, because it won't. It's not like some of the monsters in the monster manual where their resistance is only affected or is affected by the type of weapon that is being wielded, whether it be a magic weapon or not. So yeah, I don't know how you're going to do that easily. Obviously strength makes a lot of sense, but then you've got wisdom, which you should be able to do. I would probably go with your big numbers, so start strength, make sure your strength and your wisdom are reasonably high. In terms of feats, you don't really need feats with a barbarian, so you're now picking up something like, you're picking up the druid, so you've just opened up your options hugely. You can now turn it into an animal eventually and cast spells, as long as you're not raging. Equipment, see, this is the thing that is going to probably give you headaches, and I would check with your dungeon master is how they're going to approach your ability to wear armor, because druids can't wear armor, but it doesn't matter because you're going to be going unarmored with your barbarian. Types of weapons they can use varies, but you'll be using the weapons that are open to the barbarian. A lot of the choices you're talking about are sort of personal rather than things that I can advise you on. Personally, I feel like if you're going to go barbarian, you go with two-handed weapon, and you truck it out as best you can, because you're not really going to be able to use a shield later on, and there won't be much point to it anyway. So you might as well, if you're going to get up close, whack things hard. You might decide to go with a shield that's a wooden shield rather than a steel shield if you can get hold of one. Later on, when you've got levels in your druid, it all sort of really depends, eh? I don't know if I've necessarily given you any information that you would have found useful in any of that, Ethan. It's a combination that I just wouldn't even contemplate. That's the hardest part for me. But yeah, making sure that your strength is high and your wisdom's high, and you probably can't. You're going to also have to have your next high stat is going to probably need to be something like Constitution, because you will get hit, particularly if you're up close to begin with. Okay, just a bit more water in this stuff. It's just getting a little bit thick and a bit hard to apply, and just give me a second while I just make sure I get it consistency right. Okay. So I would imagine it's going to take a few videos to get this done, but that's alright. It's fine. Kind of used to that. Painting takes time. Really, really tight spots to get into, by the way. So if you're wondering if it was easy to get at, it absolutely is not. This one didn't require me to do any bending. I didn't have to go and sort of push anything around or reheat the resin to bend back the shape on it, which I thought was good, considering some people have had that problem. What's that, Ethan? Well, the advice is appreciated nonetheless. Yeah. I've done a combination of cleric and wizard, and I found that to be fantastic. I could just do anything, and there were times where I would feel really, really bad because I could do so much with that combination, multi-classing. And then of course when I didn't show up, the party were like suddenly hamstringed because I was the only one who was playing a healer and the only one who was playing a full blastum caster as well. Everybody else was playing sort of like rogues or paladins, or had picked up something like a fighter or a barbarian. So yeah, those tend to be my favourites in terms of multi-classing, is the cleric and wizard combination, which sounds like it would be hard to do, but it isn't. It can be done. It works well. Let's get the little tailbone here, little tailbone here, little tailbone. I think that is supposed to be sitting like so. So the shell doesn't sit on it perfectly by the looks. And then what's happening over here, we're just getting there. Just a few spots. Always good to go over with another brush later on with it smaller. And track it in. Somebody was asking me about the crawling claw the other day, and I can't remember who it was or when, but I had to think about the crawling claw for those of you who might find this interesting, and maybe they'll spot or watch this video. I don't feel like the crawling claw is a combat monster. For those of you who might decide to use the crawling claw in your games, even if you include a whole bunch of them, I feel like they're more of a nuisance, and I feel like a crawling claw is a tool. It's like a servant that brings things to the necromancer or the undead or whoever's created the crawling claw. They might be sort of, there to make things a little bit more difficult for the players, but not really a combat monster as such. More as a bit of entertainment. When you think about the Addams Family and the Thing, he used to run around all over the place. He answered the doors, he brought books to his master, things like that. I feel that's how the crawling claw should be approached, rather than as an actual combat monster. For anybody who might wanted to know, that's my view on the crawling claw. What's that, Ghost? The tailbone meat is the tastiest part of the umber hulk, if you prepare it properly and sear it with high heat. Well, that's good to know. I wasn't aware of that. I do believe that there is somebody who put out a PDF or a reference book on how to cook monsters. I thought that was really clever. If anybody's watched Tarask's channel, he does reviews on all sorts of things, and he did a review on that, and I just thought that was hilarious. It has mechanical aspects to it as well, which I think are probably less likely to be adopted by dungeon masters, but I thought that the concept behind giving you a recipe that you could use was really, really funny and cool. My current character likes to eat exotic animals and beasts and monsters, provided they're not too icky. So yeah, no slimes for me, no oozes. Oozes are bad for your digestion. Go with something else that's less aggressive in terms of its acidic nature. I don't know if you can necessarily see what I'm doing. I'm sorry about that, but it's really difficult to get into some of these locations. For when you run out of iron rations. Yes, for when you run out of iron rations. Okay, brush needs to be watered down again. Sorry guys, the brush keeps drying up quite a lot. So although I am trying to paint fairly quickly, it's very difficult to get into these locations. So hence it's going to be a bit on the slow side. There we go, get in there. There's the little tummy. Come on, little tummy. There we go, got it. And I missed that. Just a little bit of a run just down the side here. And there's the fun of painting, right? Trying to get into all the nooks and crannies. Okay, so I got that bit. Let's do that again. Ooh. Is anybody running any pre-made adventures such as The Curse of Strahd, Lost Mine of Phandelver, or Out of the Abyss, or Horde of the Dragon Queen, or anything like that? Be interested to know. Or you're running your own campaigns. Of course, you don't need to share that information. It's perfectly fine to just say, no, I'm happy just to watch and paint and listen, and that's it. What's that, Ghost? Thanks for showing us the technique. I don't mind slow. I appreciate seeing the whole process in real time. Well, that's all right. I think the reality is that when you watch the videos, some of these painters on YouTube are really good, man. They are so good, but you don't actually see them paint the thing. And it's so you don't really fully understand just how difficult it is to get to all the little bits. I like the way some of them have created shortcuts for themselves, which I think is fantastic. If you have ever watched Blanco's channel, and he's a featured channel on my channel, so you can find him fairly easily. He does painting videos every once in a while, live streamed, so go and check him out sometime, particularly when he's live streaming. I know he doesn't talk very much, but if you ask him a question, he does sort of look down and he'll check that sort of stuff. But he's very quick, and he's actually a lot better than I am. I just do this a lot more than he does, that's all. Okay, alright, so I'm going to get through, I'm trying to get in between the base and the toes and just pick up the shell, which is actually proving to be extremely difficult. Just make sure I stay in the center. Am I in the center? Yeah. Okay, alright. Just paint on the underneath. There is still lots of white, I realise. Ooh. Mate, I'm going to really enjoy painting this. I had so much fun painting the purple worm. I know it's difficult to get at, but I've had so much fun painting it, and I have to say I'm going to really enjoy painting this one, even though it's tricky to get. Okay, all right. I'm just going to wash that brush out completely and then restart again. Okay. I do have a wash, for those of you who are wondering. The wash that I will eventually use when it's fully dry is Null Oil Shade. It's supposed to be pretty general in nature, so I don't need to have sort of like multiple shadings or washes available. And I don't really feel like spending gobs and gobs of money on a huge variety of paints, so that I'm going to mix my paints to get variations in colour, rather than try to use a different colour. Not to mention, it means I wind up with like 1,000 paints all over my table. It doesn't work. Okay, so around the neck area and the main body, I'm just painting around there. I'm not going to worry about that antennae for now, because it's just not going to be worth it. And down the side there. Sorry, I keep moving the miniature out of the middle of the screen. What's that, Ghost? Right, I noticed Citadel has almost a wash for every colour. Yes, that's quite deliberate. They have a channel that's designed to sell paints. And I think their videos are really short, anywhere from less than a minute to up to 3 minutes. And they literally, will show you how to do everything. But they show you with every different paints. Every layer they do is a new paint. And that is to encourage you to buy all of their paints. There's a lot of different colours, so hence it can get very expensive. I bought, the only colour I specifically bought for this miniature was this one to do the shell, which is the Averland Sunset. Okay, so if you thought I would bought any other paints for this project, no, that was the only one that specifically I purchased for this particular monster, just because I felt like it was closer to the colour that I wanted. There we go. Right, just between the, just over here. Oh, that's so difficult to get at. Okay, down on the chest. I tried painting the chest before, it was actually pretty difficult, so try a different angle. So what are we doing there? That looks like, that might be flesh. Is that where I need to leave brown sections? Okay, alright, just move that along there. So all of anything that has like a less flat surface or smoother surface that's sort of got ribs, I'm assuming is the muscles between the plates. So those are the bits that I will leave brown and use flesh on later. Okay, now down the bottom here, what are we doing here? This is a good question. I feel like that needs to go down all the way. I'm still not completely convinced, but really hard to tell. Really hard to tell. I'm going to leave it. I'll leave it for now. I'll come back to that bit. What's that, Overlord? Yeah, that's why I mentioned inks earlier. I mix my own shades using them. Fair enough. I can see that making a lot of sense, to be fair. Otherwise it would cost you a fortune. Alright. I'm just doing the thigh on this side. And the paint's a little bit thin, so I'm going to have to go over it again, unfortunately. Kind of necessary though. There we go. And how do I get to the rest of it? That's the question. I'll just move it around, I guess. Move it around. Ooh. Has anybody been watching the new Critical Role channel? I've actually kind of enjoyed watching the in between the sheets videos on the different people who are playing or dungeon mastering. So we've had Matthew Mercer and Travis and Laura and Marisha, and I was at I think that have they done Liam yet? I can't remember, but it's been quite interesting, I have to say. Initially I didn't think I was going to watch those videos, but I have. It's taken me a long time, and I've done it while I've been editing videos, but I still did. Worth a look at some point if you have the time, that is. What's that? Overlord, I shaded the last batch of five minis with a mix I made with a couple of drops in that glaze, medium and water. Oh, okay. Cheers, Fred. Meeting friends for a barbecue. Have a good weekend. You too, man. Have a good barbecue, mate. Sounds like a plan. Go have some food. So how long am I likely to be going, guys? Well, I'm probably going to go no longer than 2 o'clock. So we might go for another 20 minutes and then I will stop. And we'll come back to it next week. Depending on how things go. Or I might go back to the purple worm. I'm just going to see how I feel. This is like my day off, right? So I just get to paint whatever the heck I like. And today I was like, I definitely want to paint the Umber Hulk. And then there, down the bottom, down the bottom. I would really, what I want to do is make some adjustments to the Umber Hulk if I ever use it again. Just because its features just don't come off often enough. Don't come up. They seem to be, you know, you really can only target so much. You can only do so much with it. You've only got so many rounds. You've got, let's get real, you have between 1 and 3 rounds to make your monster leave a mark before it's either going to have to run away or it's going to get utterly destroyed. It might kill the player's characters, but I honestly find that that's generally not how Dungeons & Dragons 5e is built. Dungeons & Dragons 5e is built for the players to be successful. And although their adventures are getting more deadly, they do seem to have still stats that, so that the players are dealing with things that they can manage. And I think that's because deliberately to deal with new players. So, you know, once you have been playing for a while, you probably should adjust your monsters and change things up. Okay, alright, so I'm just going to move that down and just wash my brush because I feel like it's getting a bit too dry. What's that, Ghost? Critical Role. I'll check it out. I bought a book describing the guy's world. Oh, Tal'Dorei. Right, yes. Now, I'm not talking about their live play or their gameplay. I'm talking about between the sheets. It's sort of more the background of the people rather than anything else. But I still thought it was quite good. What's that, Ghost? How would you paint translucent models like the gelatinous cube or the ghost banshee woman? To be fair, I actually have never had to sort of deal with that. I'm honestly not sure how I would go about it. I've never really had to worry about dealing with those. I think what I would do is I would probably dry brush over them if they're translucent so that they don't lose the translucent nature to them. If I put too much paint on, you're going to lose all of that, right? I think that's the smartest way to deal with them, is just not to paint too much over them and just stick with keeping the amount of paint you put onto them fairly limited. So I guess that's how I would go about it, is using as little paint as possible. Alright. Okay, so I've got to get some more paint out of the bottle because it's starting to dry out and I still haven't got enough of that colour on. What's that, Ghost? Between the Sheets. We'll check it out. Yes, that's the one. And for those of you who think it has something to do with people sleeping together, it's not. Okay? Alright. Some more paint. Let's grab a whole bunch of that. That ought to be enough, I hope. And then close that lid up. Good. Add some water because it's way too thick. The Citadel paints I've noticed are a lot thicker than the paints you get from Vallejo. So therefore you do have to water them down a little bit more when you're painting miniatures, but it's alright. You've got to water down most things anyway, right? And it's good if your paints are thick because they last longer. Okay, alright, that's got it. I just need to start applying again. Oh, applying. Could you even hear what I said? For the internet section, with bones and metal paint the item as normal and then use very thin washes of greenish colour on the main cube section. Okay, interesting. There's a bunch of people in the room, if you haven't figured it out, who know heaps more about painting than I do. So by all means, you should definitely ask questions. Even if I can't answer those questions, the chances are they can, which is kind of awesome, eh? This is the great thing about a community where people interact with each other. This is why I live stream, people. For those of you who don't understand why I do so much live streaming, it's because I get to interact with you. The comment section's all right, but it's not the same. You learn a lot more when you can have a response immediately rather than have to wait a whole bunch of time before they can respond to you. Right, I'm not sure if I am painting the right part, the shell color or not, but I'm going to paint that there for now. Right, how do I get in there? And that, between that knee and the body, just is no space to get in. Alright, I got it. Chest section, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. I can barely see myself. It's very hard to get in between here. And my eyes. It's usually after about an hour that my eyes start to lose it. And I can see that my eyes are starting to get tired now. So if I start making horrible botch ups, you'll know why. Fred is getting tired. I know I need to do the head as well, so don't think I haven't forgotten about the head. I haven't forgotten the head. What's that, Ghost? I imagine Citadel would suggest you buy their line of glazed paints. Absolutely. Absolutely, every single one of them. I'm not suggesting that you do that, though. You don't need to. It is not necessary. Darren's having a good laugh. I think there are a couple of vids on, is it YT for that specific model? Yeah, there probably is. I have already watched part of one, but I noticed everybody seems to do it slightly differently. Not all exactly the same, but it's all right. Mine is going to be a little bit different to theirs, eh? Oh, I can't get it that from that angle. Let's just move that there. Paint across there. Okay, so it's coming together. It's just getting at all the bits. Okay, so I've got that plate and that shoulder part. That shoulder part's not a bit thin there, so we'll just add a little bit more paint onto there. Like so. I need to tackle the head. I've got the body, I've got the bottom set. Oh, it's really thin down there as well. Just put a bit more paint on there. I'm not really surprised that I'm having to go over more than once. I get people telling me how to paint my miniatures all the time. Lots of advice as it happens. Okay, let's go for the head now. And I'm just going to whack it on. I'm not even going to bother painting the mandible, so I'm going to go with a slightly different colour. I'm going to actually make my own colour for that. For those of you who are wondering what I am doing. What's that, Ghost? Cool, thanks. I may buy the gelatinous cube and throw it at some heroes. Something about fighting a gigantic living jello creature just gets me going. You know, it's actually very hard to make the gelatinous cube a scary monster to fight. I've done tactical videos for the gelatinous cube. It's very difficult for them to be effective without the party just... if it doesn't get surprise on the group and get somebody in the engulf, it's going to be all over. They're just going to move back because it moves so slow, and they're going to pepper it with ranged fire. So you have to sort of, I feel like you have to use more than one, or you have to place it in a location where escape is much more difficult. So it drops down behind them. But they're as stupid as, a gelatinous cube is, it doesn't have much in the way of tactics. All it does is to scour the surface. It doesn't really feed on adventurers. Its prime thing for consumption is dead things lying in a passageway or a location where it's feeding, and insects which can't get away from it because it moves faster than the insect. Even something like a rat would probably be faster than the gelatinous cube, but a gelatinous cube might not be picked up by the rat, and so the rat will get eaten. Just because, not so much because it's the rat's faster or the gelatinous cube is faster, because it's not. It's just because it does so much damage with its engulf. So yeah, just bear in mind, gelatinous cubes only work if you have the right sort of environment going on. Otherwise it's sort of like a disappointing monster to run. Okay, so I think I've got the vast majority of the creature painted the colours that I wanted. Oh, and every time I touch it I'm knocking paint off, so I'm going to stop doing that. So I'm going to just clean out my brush. And what do we got here? Oh, Darren, oh, my favourite. Put one in the bottom of a pit trap. Yes, yes. A pit trap where you can't get out of it easily, where you have to try to climb, and the climb check's difficult after you've already taken damage in a pit trap. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Those are good places to stick things. But the problem is a gelatinous cube won't necessarily stay there, not unless it's getting a good supply of food. And they need to consume quite a bit to sustain themselves. And they're brainless, so it's not like they'll just sit down there and wait. An Otyog would sit down in a pit, provided it continues to get fed. Otherwise, it will move and change its locations. I find that the ghost, the new Rust monster in Dungeons and Dragons 5e is really sort of bland. I just don't like it. You know why? Because it doesn't destroy magic items. You need to adjust that. Otherwise, it's just too tame. Okay, I'm just doing spot painting now. For those of you who are wondering why I'm still painting with this color, I'm just going over locations that look a little bit thin, rather than the whole thing. So this means that next time I will be doing more of the detail work. If I do a wash, that's the end of the video. Essentially, if I put a wash on, there's nothing more I can really do, because you just got to wait after that and let it dry. I know my brother has rushed that process before and it hasn't worked out. It's never worked out well for me. Okay, so I'm just where it's a bit thin, the big areas, just like so. Oh, I don't know, did you hear that? I'm getting hungry. Sounds like my stomach's saying it's time to eat, which I will very, very shortly, not too far away. Okay. Just underneath in the chest area. I think I missed that. I'm going to just grab my smaller brush again. Hang on. Your druid and your monk aren't going to worry about the rust monster. They're not really a combat monster either. Their only effective use in the game of Dungeons and Dragons for a rust monster is to destroy metal and take out their weapons. That's the only. They're not really going to be interested in feeding on the players' characters. I've done tactical videos on that as well for those of you who are interested. So yeah, if you remove the element of being able to damage and consume metal, then and they're not really going to go after somebody who's covered in pointy things that trying to hurt it. They're going to go and find some metal that's been left unoccupied, and they don't have to enter into a fight. Okay, all right. So let's clean out that brush. I'm going to just go back over again with the brown color, but with a smaller brush because I missed it. Some of the locations didn't quite get enough paint on them, and I'll go for another 9 minutes and then I'll finish up. Okay. What's that? I was thinking of the one from 1E, the first edition. Yes, the Rust Monster from there. I believe believe it or not, the last edition I actually played with folks. Really? Well, I think that the older version of the Rust Monster is much better. It's just they changed it because people used to get upset because their magical items and their armor and their weapons used to get destroyed by them. But I think that's what they need to be able to do. Otherwise, it doesn't sort of make any sense. Ghosts. Can you throw iron ingots at them to distract them? Do they get full? Yeah, well, I think that they would. I think that a Rust Monster would eventually be sick and tired of eating stuff. It's like any creature can. And yes, throwing iron stuff to Rust Monsters would distract them. They would go after the metal, not after you, and consume it. So that's definitely a tactic that players could use, and a Dungeon Master might want to allow to incorporate so that they can get away from the creature. So yes, throw some useless metal items, you know, your pots and pans and so forth, and then hightail it out of there. Okay, so the brown didn't go on as thick and as well as I'd hoped, so I'm going to just paint over some of those areas so that next time we come back to this, hopefully I don't have to do too much of that. It is the trickiest location, unfortunately, because they're all sort of odd surfaces, these. And I feel like I want to water it down, but the last time I did that it just didn't coat very well. So I'll see how much I can get away with not doing that. And then in here and here, let's make it happen. I have been avoiding the likes of the Druid and the Bard for a lot of my videos, but that is going to change for those of you who are more interested in those sorts of classes. So expect some of those topics to come up. I did do a video on animal companions a little while ago, and mainly because I felt like the ranger had gotten a hard shaft and people were sort of frustrated about the Beastmaster. I would like to see more Beastmasters played at my tables. Okay, and so I thought, well, let's do a video that talks about how to use it outside of combat. I think that was relatively successful. Okay, that did it. Cool. And the inside arm. Can I get in there? It's very hard to sort of establish what I'm painting right now. Okay, let's go with this leg here. Just where the shell is, down that side. And along the top, in the corner, flip it around, same sort of thing. It might be a part that needs to be shell rather than flesh, but I'll come back to it. I think what I will do is I will grab an existing Umber Hulk that I've already got painted, so it gives me sort of a reference line. Pictures, you just don't get enough information off the pictures alone. There we go. That's that. And the paint is drying way too fast again. Just down the bottom. Painting in the nether regions. It's bottom. Bottom, this paint is bottom. There we go, cool. Alright, and a little bit more over here. Down that side. Okay, let's clean up my brush again. Bom, 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 bom. Okay, my brown is almost gone. So I think that's a signal that I am just about finished for today. I'm going to go with the hands. Try to get as much brown on the hands because it didn't coat very well. Haven't decided if the hands are going to be brown at all because I feel like they are sort of slightly armoured. They certainly seem like it. And there's brown that needs to go underneath there, but I'm going to run out. Might need to squeeze just a little bit more out because that still looks very, very grey. Hang on, give me a sec. Last little bit of paint. Get the fingers. I've tried to dampen down the sound in my room by putting a blanket over the behind me, up against a whiteboard. So maybe that will help dampen down the echo in the room for those of you who don't like the echo. It is essentially not a sound studio, so it is just a little office with the door closed. Can't really open the door because everybody can hear everything. All the sound sort of travels through the house. I've got an old house, creaky floorboards. Just a little bit of water in there and tack the hands, tack the fingers. There we go, and along there. Okay. It's getting very quiet. I'm assuming that it must be late where people are. I've almost run out of things to talk about. Well, I think I really have actually. I'm more focused on trying to get my little fingers done. There we go. There. Yes. I am excited to see what happens with the new Marvel movies that are coming through. I think pretty much everybody is, right? But it's amazing how essentially their story has evolved over so much time. It's the sort of thing as a dungeon master you always hope you can achieve, you know, that all these little stories that you put together all sort of culminate into one big story and outcome. It's really hard to run a campaign that covers levels 10 to 15 and that's, you know, that's like a year and a half of playing. It's a long time, and yet Marvel Studios has been running their stories for as long as they have. They haven't hit home runs with every single movie. Some movies have been taken better than others, but as a general rule, they've done really well, and I think that's because their stories are character stories. And people love character stories. And they're about lots of different characters, but they're still character stories. Ultimately, they are driven by characters in the story rather than anything else. Less important are the things that we remember in the movies in terms of the events that took place. Kind of interesting. Okay, all right. So I think that is where I need to sort of quit for today. What's that, Darren? 6 p.m. here. Struggling with constantly rebooting the model. The mobile. Oh, the mobile phone. Sorry about that, man. I'm sorry to hear. That's a drag. Okay. So, yes, I am going to come back to it. Obviously I've got the shell painted, basically the colours that I wanted. This is just base coating really. I've got the brown and where the flesh is probably going to be. I'm going to do the mandible something completely different, so it's not going to be that colour. That'll be sort of the beginning. It's taken me an hour and a half to get this far, for those of you who are wondering, just because of how difficult it is to get at everything. But look, if you liked this video, share and like the video with other people. I won't be editing this down, so if you're thinking I was going to edit it, not this particular type of video, it's way too long. If you like this sort of content, I do this. I paint for about an hour, hour and a half once a week, so consider subscribing and hitting the bell button to be notified when I do another video. If you want to support my channel, you supported my channel by watching this video, and I do really appreciate it. And thank you, Ghost and Darren. If you think it looks good, then it must look good. I really do appreciate it when people watch my videos, so thank you. I do have many more videos that you're welcome to go and check out if you want to. I don't do Patreon, so if you want to support my channel, watching my videos will support me, so I do more. But if you want to support my channel, I don't do Patreon. I do have affiliate links down below. All the materials that I use for this video should be down in the description. So Book Depository and Amazon, you just buy what you want. I get a small commission. You pay exactly the same price. And essentially, yes, you can pick up what you want. It doesn't matter if you don't use those affiliate links. You are still supporting me by watching my channel, okay? And thank you for everybody who came in the live stream. It's been great. Ghost, I'm going to start painting minis soon, so it's nice to see someone do it in real time. Well, I do it every week, real time. Same day, same time. We'll be back here again. But yeah, if you have any comments for me, any feedback, you can do that if you're not part of the live stream in the comments section. Otherwise, hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Yes, I know it's a 19, it's not a 20, I realize this. You don't have to remind me. Anyway, that is it.